In this episode, we review Late Night with the Devil. I didn't think of anything else to say about it, but we're going to review it, so stick around. Go. Hit that subscribe, ring that bell. Hi, YouTube. We'll be back and talk about a Late Night with the Devil. Bye. No, stay.
Bye. Oh yeah, not bye. Don't leave.
Is this a metal thing?
Yes. Taste.
David, what is this?
It's pretty thick.
Great.
I have to kill a lot of people. Just tell me what you want me to fuck.
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers big tits. Mistletoe alert. This is backcountry.
This guy was a real jerk.
How long can Hugo be pregnant?
Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, she's such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso.
Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk. I'm Bryce Hanson, the creepy one, and with me is Max, the twink. And that's
the teenage
all.
twink.
The teenage twink. Yeah, Sydney is out having woman issues, I guess. I don't know.
Don't say she's having woman issues. She's seeing a friend.
Sure, whatever.
This is why they call you a creep.
Sounds like woman issues to me.
Well, this episode is just for the boys.
Yeah, this episode is just for the boys, for our bears and otters that stick around for Twink Max. Every week we review a single horror movie. New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you go. Don't be a square. Be sure to share the show. That's how we grow. Also, if you want to support us, the best way of doing that is on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/horrormovietalk. It's the equivalent of the adult section at your video rental store, and you know what you want to see what's behind them curtains. If you want to add your pee to the community pool, go to horrormovietalk.com or call 682-253-4468 and send us a voicemail. Got a great show today. We'll be reviewing Late Night with the Devil. We'll start out by giving a brief review and our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10. After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later on, we'll be doing nothing because this is a very low-effort episode produced by Bryce Hanson.
We're tired.
You can tell that we're doing a double episode because Bryce doesn't care about doing the ad or a game. We're just going to get through this episode and an afterpod and call it good. This is one that feels like it was kind of a missed opportunity when it came out, but what else? What did we review instead? I think Imaginary came out at the same time.
Yeah,
which was a great movie that I'm glad we covered.
Bryce has given the worst opinion on Imaginary known to man, but there were just so many new ones coming out at the same time. I think we missed quite a few, actually.
Yeah, April's a big month for horror. It's a dumping ground for like everything that the studios don't know what to do with, and that horror tends to fall into that category quite a bit. This was in theaters. It didn't seem like it was a wide release. I think one of the reasons why we didn't cover it is like we missed opening weekend, and then it was like in limited release. Like it was hard to get all of us to the theater, and then eventually it came to streaming, and so now we're covering it.
I remember seeing, I think I was watching Imaginary, and I sent to the group chat, I was like, I'm so mad that we chose this over Late Night with the Devil. It looked so much more interesting, but
yeah, I mean, fair enough. Right now, Late Night with the Devil can be found on Shudder or AMC Plus. It's a Shudder original, I think. So this movie is about a live broadcast during Halloween on Sweeps Week in 1977, featuring a failing late night talk show starring Jack Delroy, played by David Dastmalchian. Sure. He's the guy that was the polka dot man in the Suicide Squad movie and was also in Oppenheimer. Did you not see Suicide Squad?
I have seen it. I just don't remember much from it. I've seen both Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad, but I didn't really love either. Which one had the shark in it? That one
The
was
second
funny.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
That one was the one that he was in. He was a main character. He was the polka dot man.
I don't remember.
Anyways, in this movie, the talk show host Jack Delroy interviews a cult survivor supposedly possessed by a demon. The audience is amazed and horrified by the demonstration, and Delroy soon finds himself out of his depth. But instead of heeding caution, he doubles down on the bit to save the show from cancellation to disastrous consequences. This movie has a great premise. What if you showed Reagan from The Exorcist on a talk show next to obvious fake psychics and debunkers that often appeared on late night? The talk show is a format that everyone is familiar with, and even the guests previous to the possessed little girl should all be recognizable stand-ins for real-life talk show guests, such as Uri Geller and James Randi. The biggest setback is that the writing and acting are a little too on the nose, and it ends up feeling a little cringe throughout. In what could be
just like late night talk shows are.
Right. Well, in what could be a super compelling and real feeling found footage film, the artificiality really pulls you out of the moment, and you definitely feel like you're watching a movie. I liken it to whenever you see a movie or show that has a stand-up comedian as one of the characters, and you see their stand-up set, and it's just awful. And it's obviously an actor trying to act like a stand-up comedian, and they don't have, the 5 years of eating shit on stage to like back up their expertise. But in the movie, they're like telling these lame jokes, but then the audience has uproarious laughter from the fake audience. And it's a very specific type of uncanny valley in movies that's created when actors aren't able to match the charisma and timing of a seasoned professional, in this case, a talk show host. Like it makes you really appreciate like the skill that goes into acting cool and collected while hosting a nationally televised nightly program. Like you've got hundreds of hours of experience that you're just like, it's no thing to these people that have done it for a while. And then it's very obvious that David Malkian, however you say his last name,
David D. Oh, that's David Day.
He's just not convincing. But they made the genius move to explain that this is a failing talk show. So Jack Delroy's wooden presence and indiscernible personality actually sells the why. So it's like, oh, well, of course it's failing because this is awkward to watch. He's like watching an erased chalkboard host a late night show. That being said, this movie does have some good bones. The plot structure and utilization of the talk show format is great. It lends a really interesting backdrop to the horror cliche of demonic possession. The tension ramps up convincingly, like the structure and pacing is really good. The inevitable train wreck that is foreshadowed is satisfying. I just wish they would have aimed for more realism in the writing and acting. Ends up being okay. I give it a score of 6 out of 10.
Yeah, so this is the second time I've watched Late Night with the Devil, because I watched it and then like 2 days later Bryce was like, hey, next week we're doing Late Night with the Devil, and he would not let me get by with having watched it a week prior. So I watched it 2 times in 2 weeks.
No, I didn't say that. I said I would probably put it on the background while I was doing something else. I was just saying
that means watch it again, Max.
You should probably just bone up on it and, watch it at 1.5 times speed while you're doing.
You can't do that on AMC. You have to buy it on YouTube to do that.
True.
So, yeah, you got to spend money to be that kind of a reviewer. But so I come in with like kind of fresh eyes because I've never in my life sat down and watched a full episode of a late night show. It's not really a thing for my generation. I don't think, at least I don't know people who watch late night. We don't watch cable, you know? So it's like,
Yeah. Well, you don't watch anything live is the thing. Did you ever sit down to watch on TV a scheduled show that you couldn't see later?
Well, what do you mean by that? Because like there was times where like we didn't have a way to record stuff. And so like if I didn't watch something that came on, I missed it, but it would probably have a rerun. So.
Right. Yeah. So you'd have to eventually wait for the rerun. Yeah. That's the experience that you have to experience media from, the 70s and 80s. Yeah.
But so you say that like he wasn't very like convincing as like a talk show host, or at least not a good talk show host. That's how I see all these guys. Like I've only seen like clips of them on like Instagram reels, and like everything I'm watching, I'm like, this is so awkward. Why do people like this? Like, it's not, this guy isn't very funny, and he just like talks to celebrities that I don't care about. So I don't know. It's never really been something I've been interested in. So this kind of felt on par with what I've seen. But I don't know. Would you have a different experience with late night television?
I love late night. Like I'm a big fan of late night television because part of the experience is staying up late. And like, if you don't have that part of it, being a kid and staying up too late, like past your bedtime to sneak watching late night. And back in like the 80s and 90s, it was a little more edgy, like not edgy as in they could get away with more, but like the tone and feel of it felt like something like dangerous or more dangerous could happen on this show versus like something in primetime television. But it is an interesting art form because like you just bring out interesting people or celebrities and beyond the facade of just promoting the movie that they're promoting, like you can get into some really interesting conversations and have really interesting moments. Like some of my favorite comedic moments of all time comes from talk shows. Like
really?
Oh yeah. Like my absolute, probably my favorite thing that Norm Macdonald has ever done was an appearance on Conan O'Brien on the Late Late Show. He was interviewing. No, he was there on the panel, and he came out first, and then Courtney Thorne Smith, which you probably don't know, she starred in a show called Melrose Place, and she came out and she was promoting some movie, and Norm was being so funny, and then she also mentioned that she was going to star in a movie with Carrot Top. Which, yeah, you probably don't even know who Carrot Top is either. Comedian, like a prop comic back in the 90s. And Norm Macdonald's, like, reaction to that is probably one of the funniest moments on late night ever. And if I could pull up a clip without getting a copyright strike, I would. But you have to seek that out. That's like one of the best Norm bits ever.
We'll pull it up on the Afterpod.
Yeah, and then you just like, it's, you know what it's like? It's, if you're a fan of Saturday Night Live, it's the same thing. Like, yes, the majority of it is kind of a slog. Like the quality varies wildly, but the moments where it hits, it's fantastic and it stands the test of time. Because it's in the moment, it's like genuine, has like people that are very quick on their feet and very funny. So like I'm a big fan of it. Like and you also develop opinions on like what's good and bad. Like Johnny Carson is fantastic. He's probably the archetype, like the best that's done it. David Letterman was the perfect like counterbalance to that at the time. Like early 90s, David Letterman is like so good. And then later, David Letterman got very, very lazy, and it was kind of disappointing. Jay Leno was so middle of the road, middle America appeasing that he was just awful. Like, he's a good comedian. Like, he can be very good. And like, if you see old clips of him appearing on the Tonight Show, he's fantastic. But as a host, he's like just so safe. He's basically the equivalent of what Jimmy Fallon is now, where it's just like, he's just there to be nice and to make middle America feel comfortable. And then Conan is probably my personal favorite in my lifetime, just because, yeah, same deal. Like, he's a great comedy mind, and there's so many like great moments on his show of just like this huge long career. I'm also a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel. A lot of people hate Jimmy Kimmel, but I think he does a really great job as a late night host. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of opinions about late night, and like
I had no idea that you had so many things to say about late night.
No, it's great. It's like a great format, and it's going kind of out of style. And it's like, back in the day, it was like you didn't have options. And now there's just so many late night shows that are doing the similar thing. It's kind of getting watered down and doesn't have the same impact because everyone just watches clips of the show the next day on YouTube anyways. They don't sit through the whole show. So stuff like, you know, sketches and bits that happen on the show, like, no one cares about those anymore, because you're not getting that filler part. You're just watching for like the interesting interview tidbit kind of thing, or monologue jokes. So anyways, in this one, like, you see, it's very apparent that this guy it doesn't feel like a late night, like an actual genuine late night show. Like, it feels very artificial. So it drew me out of it.
Speaking of artificial,
what score did you give it? We've been talking a lot, but I haven't heard your score for it.
No, that's fine. I'm gonna give it a 6 as well. Like, it was good and enjoyable, but not like anything that I'm super interested in. Like, talking about on a podcast for an hour and a half. But
right. All right. Well, talking about podcasts for an hour and a half, it's an hour and 40 minutes if you count commercials, but you don't have to count those commercials. You should go to patreon.com/horrormovietalk and get rid of those pesky commercials, and more importantly, support the show. You can also go to our shop on our website to buy our logo merch. Check out our artist, Dustin Goebel. He's a professional artist who fucks hard. He also takes commissions for artwork from HMT fans. Contact him on Instagram at dgoebel00. If you want to call and leave us a voicemail, call 682-253-4468. Let's get into spoilers. Okay, I'm fading fast. We got to get through this episode, Max. Let's go. So it starts out with like the framing of this as a documentary of the generic found footage thing, and it starts off with like 7-minute black and white montage, just giving all the exposition of who this is, what the late night show is, what the situation for like being close to cancellation, gives like a year's backstory for the TV host, that he just lost his wife, and then he is involved in shady, secret societies.
Yeah, I didn't really know how to feel about that, because what are they trying to do with the Grove? Like they barely use it, but then it's like, is it important? Is it not? I couldn't really tell.
Well, it's a weird element to add. I mean, it's ends up being integral to the plot.
Yeah.
But the Grove is like, did you guys get enough of the swallowing the snot that I just did? Did I do that close enough into the
Try it again.
Okay, hope everyone got that. So the Grove, I mean, it's like it's a parody of an actual like secret society thing.
That's not even a parody. The Grove is like a real quote unquote thing, right?
It's called something else. I mean, it's something Grove. It's like Bohemian Grove or something like that in real life. But it's basically like some kind of fraternity or something that mingles kind of occult imagery with like kitschy ceremonies for the initiates. And so, but just the fact that no one really knows what it is and that there's this stuff out in the woods that you can find related to it. And it involves a bunch of very powerful people, like I think 3 U.S. presidents were part of it. Yeah, so the Grove...
You'll never guess which ones.
Yeah, it was inspired by Bohemian Grove. And the membership boasts several politicians, including 3 presidents, industrialists, and noted figures. And so, yeah, it's just got this weird imagery. And so people that are like conspiracy theorists, like equate this to like, oh, this is basically the Illuminati, or, the controlling, fraternity or whatever.
So were they trying to say that he sacrificed his wife in order to be like a popular talk show host? Was that kind of the idea it was trying to push?
Basically, I mean, in the end, it seems like what they're implying was he went through some ceremony in the Grove to gain fame, and the price was, basically the eventual sacrifice of his wife. I think in the trivia, it talks about like there's kind of a meme or kind of a thing with like making a deal with Satan that, traditional folklore states that if a person makes a contract with the devil for earthly goods, the devil comes to claim his payment in 7 years. So at the start of the film, it shows Delroy at the Grove in 1969, and his wife dies 7 years later. And so that happens. And kind of like the using the Grove and his wife is basically just kind of like setting the stage that this is like 70s fame, 70s TV fame. You're surrounded by powerful people, like you're, trying to, move up in the ratings and all that stuff. So after that documentary footage stuff, it moves into the found footage portion, which they say is the actual tape recordings of the show interspersed with background
behind the scenes footage.
Yeah. And it moves into like literally it feels like an episode of a late night talk show. And there's 3 segments. It's a pretty standard show format. So it starts out with, him introducing the show is like a Halloween special that they've got kind of a supernatural paranormal episode planned for the audience. And kind of the background is this is sweeps week and he's on the verge of getting canceled. So they're really hoping that this, helps him in the ratings. And it starts out with a psychic named Christu, and he does some cold psychic readings and does a kind of a piss poor job at it.
Well, this is something I was confused about is like, is he psychic or is he not? Because he's really bad at being a psychic until all of a sudden he's getting visions and like seeing the literal, like, is he psychic or not? Because they kind of play it both ways.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like I know the episodes of like the Tonight Show that it's referring to, like there's some pretty famous clips of Johnny Carson interviewing like psychics, like Uri Geller. There's a whole kind of subgenre of like episodes with Johnny Carson and psychics, because Johnny Carson grew up as a magician, or he like dabbled in magic, and he was like an entertainer. And so when like people would claim to be psychic, he, appreciated the showmanship of it, but also would like test them, and he'd basically do, kind of debunking stuff. So that was like the really interesting part of it, was like you could see Johnny Carson's personality come through of like he has an agenda of kind of exposing them, or he has an opinion of it, while also making people feel comfortable and having fun with the situation where this guy's on it. And so there's some pretty great episodes where like they're specifically like trying to get a psychic to prove that their abilities, and sometimes it goes terribly wrong. Like it's very, very cringe inducing. And I wish they had done that. I wish they had just gone realistic and just showed the psychic as like, first, he would have to be competent at being a psychic. Like you'd have to like show him like doing a convincing job of what psychics do, which is very much around like showmanship and like misdirection and getting people to reveal more than they want to and making it seem magical.
I love the line where he's like, your son died, right? And they're like, yeah, he did die. And then he's like, and it was recent too. And they're like, well, it was like 5 years ago. And he's like, oh, but it feels like just yesterday.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so like that part where he does that and it's like kind of convincing and he's pulling it off is the interesting part, because you don't know. But then there's like very obvious, like, oh, he's doing this very badly, or he's getting like a cold sweat from it not going well. And then the next segment, they bring out a debunker, which is basically literally James Randi. Like that's who they're trying to do. James Randi was a former magician again, and he had literally the same thing where he offered $1 million to anyone that could have proof of the paranormal provided in a controlled environment.
What a party pooper, dude. Like, could you imagine more of a wet blanket? A guy who's like, magic's not real and I'm going to prove it. It's like, okay, man, let us have fun.
The difference is like that was the other thing, is James Randi is an entertainer, and he has fun with it, and is the guy that says, no, like that is the magic to me, is getting people to believe it. And there is like entertainment value in it. Even if I tell you this is a fraud, this isn't what actually happening, I can make you believe it, as a magician, like these illusions. But his thing is like, but then there's like psychics and people that prey on people's emotions and like tries to, extract money from vulnerable people. And that's like what you're trying to protect against with like debunking. And it's a very common thing. Like I think a lot of magicians move on to being debunkers, because I think like Harry Houdini had like a similar thing where he was like debunking, mediums and, trying to debunk the supernatural, because I don't know, there's something about magicians that just like they see the trick behind.
Well, magicians are interesting because I feel like the fun part about a magician is it's not magic. Right. This guy is just really smart and really skilled at what he does, so much so that you can't figure out how he's doing it. Like that's the interesting part. Yeah.
Well, or if you're a kid and you actually just believe in magic, that's probably the funnest part of it.
Sure.
So anyways, like the difference is like with this character, this Carmichael the Conjurer, that's the debunker on the movie, he's just an asshole.
Yeah, he sucks.
He is the wet blanket. He's like, oh yeah, I know more than everyone else, and it's just like an arrogant prick to everyone. So it's like not as interesting, because why would you have just an asshole on your show? Like part of like the interplay is like, no, we're all having, it's like if you're at a dinner party of people that are friends, like how would you interact with each other when you're having an argument or like discussing something? And that's kind of like what a talk show is trying to capture. And that's like, this is more leaning towards Jerry Springer than Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
And in this aspect. And so, this debunker like just kind of shows how, you know, this could be manipulated, and points out like all the stuff that doesn't follow confirmation bias. But then Christou, like you said, like has an actual psychic event where he's like, his brain is hurting and he's like, that's such a strong power. Someone saying something about Minnie.
Yeah.
Like, huh, weird. Okay. And we'll be back. And then it comes back and the host says, actually, Minnie was a pet name I had for my wife. And, you know, the debunker was still not convinced. And then Christou projectile vomits black liquid.
Yeah, the ghost gave him a brain bleed or something and like killed him because he's vomiting like Evil Dead style, just like projectile across the room, this black sludge. Right.
And then they're like, huh, well, that's weird. Next guest is June and Lily.
I feel like any real show would be like, okay, this guy's going to the hospital. We have to end the show. Like, and this probably can't air. Like, this is a wash.
No, I mean, maybe. I think how they handled it was probably be how they would do it, which is like make an announcement and saying he's getting treated and then just not mention that he's dead, because that'd be a big bummer. But
well, yeah, that would be a huge bummer. This is kind of a tangent, but did you ever watch Psych?
No,
you weren't into. Okay, well, now there's something I've seen that you haven't. That show, I haven't seen it since I was a teenager, but I liked it a lot. The psychic, or the just really observant guy pretending to be a psychic to solve crime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard it was good. I think I watched like a bit of it and I was like, It's the same thing with any like sitcom where it's like, it's pretty awful if you don't watch it for a while and get like,
you kind of have to condition yourself to like it a lot.
Yeah. So then the next guest is June and Lily. So Lily is this teenage girl that's the sole survivor of a mass suicide committed by a satanic church that worshipped Abraxas.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the abracadabra demon.
She was saved by June, which is basically like, you know, her caretaker or psychologist or / mother,
mom,
I guess.
And
so June wrote a book about Lily that just like described her experiences and like about this demon that possessed her or like treating her. And so they're coming on to talk about this book, and Lily talked about her experience and what it was like being possessed, basically. And it's very much like stealing. It's basically like I said in the synopsis, where it's, you know, what if Reagan from The Exorcist came on a talk show?
Yeah.
And what if it was actually real and you actually witnessed what was going on with this little girl? And so Lily describes that, you know, the thing inside her, she calls Mr. Wriggles, which is very close to, what was it? Captain, what's it called? What do they call it in The Exorcist?
Captain Underpants.
I think it's in the, Captain Howdy. Yeah.
Captain Howdy.
Captain Howdy and Mr. Wriggles, which is equally like silly names for like what we see as a horrible demon.
Captain Howdy, I feel like is better though, because it's like so goofy and kind of funny that it's like very misleading. Whereas Mr. Wriggles, you're kind of like, ooh, what Wriggles? What is he?
Yeah, that's true. So then they decide to do like a demonstration because they've been talking about, how she has it inside of her, but she's like kind of like, figured out how to, stuff it down. But in the book, it describes like these kind of conjurings or seances or whatever that June does that it reveals, this horrible demon. And so they decide like, well, we got to see that. And so they do this conjuring and she literally turns into Reagan from The Exorcist, like in front of the audience's eyes immediately, and electrical goes haywire. And then they cut to commercial pretty quick.
Well, not before she starts levitating. She's like flying in the air.
Right.
And they're like,
she's levitating and she's like, accusing the host and her mom that they're like fucking and all this stuff. Just really inappropriate stuff for late night 70s live television. And so they cut to commercial break and everyone's kind of freaking out behind the scenes. His co-host is like, no likey, let's stop this. This is insane. And they're like, shut the fuck up. Catholic boy, go back to your place and smile. Like,
yeah, obviously he doesn't want to be a star because this is great. June also smacks the girl in the face on live television. And I was like, whoa, this is the 70s or 80s or whatever it is. Like, wow, you could abuse a child on camera back then.
Well, they deserved it. That's the difference.
She did in that moment.
So they come back from commercial, and this is the part where gets kind of interesting because the debunker like basically says like, okay, well, that was impressive, but this is obviously all fake. And I'm going to show you how they did it. And then he kind of puts the whole audience and the co-host in a hypnosis, and like and the scene where the co-host is like feeling worms crawl out of his skin and tears open his stomach and it's worms coming out and his like eye bulges out a worm. Like it's really disturbing imagery. And then it cuts and it's like, oh, it was all fake. He just convinced everyone that was happening. And then they say like, just roll back the tape and you'll see what it actually looks like. And so they roll back the tape and it was all, just acted out in pantomime and it didn't actually happen. So he's like, yeah, see, bro, I can just, mass hypnosis everyone. It's easy.
Yeah.
And
which
is
mass
interesting.
Hypnosis is, commonly one of the easiest things that you can do on live television.
Right. And there was only like 2 people that didn't experience the hypnosis. Like, and then the device is like, well, let's play back what happened with Lily. And then the exact thing that everyone saw happen on camera. It's like, okay, so shit.
So what's the deal with hypnosis? Because like, I feel like it's obviously a real thing that can happen. Like I've been to a hypnotist show. It looked pretty convincing. I mean, I don't know. There was like 20 people from the audience who got hypnotized right in front of my face.
Yeah, I think that's a little weird. I think a lot of that, I think most of that is fake. I think that's a lot of people that want attention go up on stage.
But
it's the same
thing. It would be
with
so
like
easy to just be like, no, I'm not hypnotized. Like, or like, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, hypnotism is a thing. Like people can be hypnotized. And I think there's like ways that hypnotists can gauge whether someone's more susceptible to it. But the thing with hypnotism is like, you have to actually kind of want it. Like you can't be hypnotized against your will. I don't think. I don't think there's any case.
At the hypnotist show I went to, there was like 1 or 2 girls who went up there who were like going along with the bit and like acting it out, but the guy was like, no, you guys aren't hypnotized, go sit down. So like that would be an instance of like people actually just wanting attention and like trying to be silly, but like they weren't hypnotized, so he sent them away. And it was pretty clear the difference between the people who were like faking it and the people who were like under some sort of trance.
Yeah. So I mean, it's weird. I have a book on hypnotism that like it takes you through the steps of like if you want to hypnotize someone. This is what
my
you do.
goodness, you should hypnotize me on next episode. That would be fun.
It'd be interesting. We'd see. I feel like I'm probably one of those that is not susceptible to hypnotism. Like I think I'm too hyper aware of reality. I don't think I'd allow myself.
I think part of me thinks it would be fun, but I think another part of me would be like, no, don't get in my brain. Don't get in my brain. And so it probably wouldn't, you know, work as well as I'd hope. But
yeah, I think it's probably similar to like dreams where it's like, as long as you're into it, you'll stay asleep. But like once you fall off a cliff, like you're just going to wake up, it's like,
so you can't have like a
if it's too far. So if like a hypnotist is asking you to like raise your arm, you're like, yeah, okay, this is kind of fun. Like subliminally, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. If like a hypnotist was like, all right, take off your pants and jack me off, you'd be like, no, I don't like that.
No, I don't. Oh gosh, that took a really dark turn. I don't know why you took it that way. Have you seen The Fourth Kind?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Dude, so that is actually like in my opinion, really scary alien movie. Mm-hmm. And it's about a therapist who uses hypnosis and he's like hypnotizing these people so that they can like let out their trauma. And like all these townspeople from the same area talk about like seeing an owl in their window. And like it's always there at night and it comes into their room and touches them and it like gets so weird. Like it is freaky.
Wow.
But that's just another hypnotist movie or hypnosis movie that is really interesting to me.
Interesting. Yeah, my go-to alien abduction movie is Fire in the Sky. Have you ever seen Fire in the Sky?
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
It's pretty awesome. And the story that's based on is a bunch of Mormons. I found out later. Yeah. So anyways, so they realize like, oh, this stuff actually happened. And then very quickly it's just absolute chaos because then Lily becomes possessed again. And it's almost like alluded to, like she was never unpossessed after the first bit, and she like shoots lightning, from the lights into the television and then quickly like just kills everyone. Like,
well, and the best kill is probably the guy who doesn't believe, and he's like, oh no, it's real. No, please, I'll worship you. Please, I'll do it. I'll do your bidding. And he just like melts as he's like begging to be saved.
Yeah. And then the co-host is like, twists his head around and he dies immediately. And then June hangs by her necklace and her throat slashed open. And I think like all the audience basically dies too. The only one that's left is the host,
Jack.
And then it like has this kind of nightmare like epilogue ending to where I guess we skipped over the part where he sees his wife's ghost in the playback, but there's the demon is kind of playing with him by showing his wife, and then it enters this kind of nightmare epilogue where his wife like is talking to him and he's kind of in this weird almost like limbo where he's being forced to continue this program, and I don't know. It's just
this
a weird,
movie takes found footage
ending.
to like it stretches the limits of what found footage can do, because it's like, how are we as the audience of a documentary watching this guy's fever dream right now?
Right, exactly. It's like it kind of ramps up so quick that you like don't ask too many questions because it's just so chaotic at the end that you're like, all right, whatever. But like, yeah, I wish they would have just kind of done a hard cut and being like, and that's where the broadcast stops.
Yeah, there's ways to explain some of that backstory and like what actually happened with the Grove without doing that. So
right, yeah. So, anyways, that's the movie. Like, I'll stand by. Like, it's a great format and it's a great structure for the movie. It just doesn't feel real at any point. Like, everyone's a little too over the top, or just not interesting enough. I wish that especially the host had kind of an angle or a personality that you could discern, as opposed to being just kind of a blank slate.
He's kind of flip-floppy too. It's like in some scenes he's like really concerned for people, and other scenes he's like, we're gonna make $1 million. Like,
right.
So like he's hard to tell what he wants. Like, obviously he wants his show to do good, but like it's unclear if he's like compassionate towards the people around him.
Yeah. And then like the psychic and the debunker, like if they had done that convincingly and made it feel really real, and then showed like, this is what would really happen if someone, if like a demonic possession was real, and you could show like what you see in the movies on live television, like exploring that would be really interesting. But they didn't set it up as being real enough for it to be interesting. It was like, okay, well, now this is the other fake part that they're showing. And so I don't know, like it's a little bit of uncanny valley with stuff. And it's just, I was expecting more. Like, how much talk this movie got, and how many people were saying like, oh, this is amazing, it's a must see. When I watched it, I was like, this, like, I guess it's pretty good. It's a great premise, but it's like not that great of a movie. Yeah.
It's like, it would be a 5 if it weren't for its like uniqueness. Like, it's just unique enough to push it to a 6, I'd say.
Right. Yeah.
Did you hear that like the movie was kind of getting flack for using AI to make their posters and stuff, so they didn't actually have to pay anybody?
Yeah, I was curious of what was generated by AI, because what I assumed was, I'm not sure it was, like in the IMDb it just says like the between commercial break cards, which is like, oh, who the fuck cares? Like, what the who cares about those? It's like you're That's literally just copying what they did in every parody of, a live show like that. But I thought they did like the stuff where it did like the pictures of her being possessed or being in the cult. Like, I assumed those were AI generated. Maybe. Or I also thought the audience might have been AI generated, but I don't think they were, or it didn't say in IMDb.
This might be a hot take, but I think like if you want to use AI to like do a simple job for your movie or for your art, like who cares? Like, yeah, it's better to have a person do it, but I think that shows like a person would do something more interesting. And so if you don't want your movie to be as interesting, then don't pay a person to do it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it says it will only use 3 images as interstitials that were created by AI, which is like, who the fuck cares? Like, it's not even, I think it could be, I would rather like you use AI and do something interesting, like have AI try to make something and like have it just be way off and creepy and use that.
That actually would be really good for a horror movie, because AI is super bad, at least right now, at like coming up with situations and premises. And so like, I think that's almost like it's funny and creepy at the same time, because it's like you can use AI to insert things into movies that are just like uncanny, creepy, weird. And it, with a click of a button, you can do this. So I think that that's actually kind of cool. But
yeah,
that's, I still prefer watching things made by humans. I think that they do the best job. So,
right. Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's taking anyone's job just yet.
Yeah. Well, until an AI can put out a quality podcast like Horror Movie Talk, I don't think we have to worry.
I think there actually already are AIs that do podcasts, or at least there's AIs that do like streaming. Like you can like watch an AI streamer who will like react to the chat and like
That's amazing.
just like hang out and chat with you. Like it's bizarre.
I mean, what does that tell you about streamers though? It's like,
Yeah. Well,
it's like a bit like,
yeah,
I watch
it's not
like the
perfect,
YouTube
but
personalities that my kids watch. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's literally just yelling at the camera. It's excitedly.
dude, I feel like your kids would watch Mr. Beast. Do they watch Mr. Beast?
Yeah. I mean, he's not like the first. They watch much, much more annoying people than Mr. Beast.
Like who?
Mr. Beast is on the roster, but their big thing is who's some people. There's Preston Plays.
I don't know who that is. Do they watch Matt Pat?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I could probably actually just go on their YouTube channel and see. I could switch accounts and see what they're watching.
I have a sneaking suspicion that your kids and me are into some of the same stuff, just at different levels. Like I'll be Googling how to do something on Roblox all the time.
Well, right now they're into just weird meme stuff, like just bizarre, just like fever dream videos. But they used to watch like play videos. Let's see. Luke Davidson. Oh, more Beck Bros. Or Beck Bros. That's one that they watch a lot of.
I don't know anything
Preston
about that.
Plays. I don't know. They're not subscribed to anyone. Whatever. So
Whatever.
Okay, I don't have any games or bits.
Who would
Any
like this?
last recommendations for Late Night with the Devil?
I'd say if you like late night television, watch this because you'll at least have things to say about it. You know what I mean?
Right. All right, good app. Love you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Call 682-253-44682. Leave us a voicemail. See you next time.
Good day, sir. Good day, sir. You lose.
Is that raincoat? Yes, it is.
I just want to stroll through the scraggly woods.
He had no face.
Horror!
Wow, that didn't sound good.